Hello, I'm Joel Deering with the International Volleyball Hall of Fame. We are speaking one-on-one today with members of the induction class for 2014. This is Volleyball in Perspective. And I'm joined by Tara Cross Battle of the United States. Welcome.
Thank you.
You are being inducted for an amazing playing career where, among many achievements, you were the first USA four-time volleyball Olympian competing in the games in 1992, 96, 2000, and 2004. You gained attention early, being named to Volleyball Monthly magazine's High School Fab 50, and then during your career at Long Beach State University, you were a two-time NCAA Division I Player of the Year and a four-time AVCA All-American selection, and as a senior, you also received the Honda Award. Along the way, you set records in the NCAA for career kills, which included a personal best and school record 47 kills in a single match. Your dominance as an all-around skilled passer and world-class attacker continued on the U.S. women's national team. In your debut Olympics, you helped USA to the bronze medal in Barcelona, and you were also instrumental in the 1995 and 2001 gold medals in the FIVB World Grand Prix. Your teams also medaled in two of the three FIVB World Championships, 1990, 1994, and 2002, that you competed in. The list of accomplishments is long, as you were also named Best Scorer and Most Valuable Player of the 1995 FIVB World Grand Prix, and you competed professionally overseas in Italy and Brazil from 1992 to 2003. I know we should start at the beginning, but 47 kills in a match? What was that like?
Very tiring. I guess I was just on that night. I did get the majority of sets when I played at Long Beach State, and that was a very long match, and I guess I was doing my thing.
That's amazing. So how old were you when you first started playing volleyball? And was there a particular coach, maybe early on, who had a great influence on you when you first got into the sport?
I started playing at 13, 8th grade. I didn't even know what volleyball was until about the 7th grade. I came from a basketball family. So 8th grade, the volleyball coach, Mrs. Zeno, her name is Barbara Zeno, she approached me and said, "I noticed that you played every sport but volleyball last year." And I said, "Yes." And she said, "Well, why don't you just give it a try? And if you like it, that's great. And if you don't, that's great too." And so I decided to give it a try. And it really didn't pique my interest until she said, "Let's start hitting." And I said, "Oh, we get to hit the ball?" So, I mean, that kind of piqued my interest, and that's how it started.
So tell us a little bit about selecting Long Beach State University.
I had a lot of offers, and my senior year, well, growing up in Southern California, I had always wanted to be a UCLA Bruin because I grew up in Southern California. So I used to watch their football games and always say I was going to be a Bruin. But my senior year, I went on my 3 official visits. And even though UCLA was wonderful, it was entirely too big for me. And it just I didn't feel comfortable. I also took a visit to USC, and I loved the players, but something just didn't feel right with me. I went to Long Beach State for a recruiting trip, partly because of Brian Gimolero. He coached me my junior year in high school. And even though it was my most boring recruiting trip, I felt the most comfortable there. So people thought I was crazy that I decided to go to Long Beach State because they weren't known yet. In the volleyball world, but I trusted Brian, and he had an amazing staff, and the girls were cool. The campus felt comfortable to me, so that's why I chose Long Beach State.
So it's probably going to be tough to pick a favorite moment from all the success that you were part of there, but could you give a few highlights?
Winning the first championship at Long Beach State in my senior year, 1989, it was probably my first. We recorded the first 15-0 game in the finals in NCAA history, so that was pretty awesome. I would say beating Cuba in the bronze medal match at the World Championships in 1990 was amazing, due to the fact that we hadn't beaten Cuba in a really, really long time. And I just remember in that final set, standing at the net going, we're about to beat Cuba. Oh my gosh, we're about to beat Cuba. And that was just the most amazing moment. Of course, winning the bronze medal in the '92 Olympics, because that was my dream and my goal, was to play in the Olympics and win a medal, and I did it in my first go-round. So I would say those probably were my highlights.
Great highlights. Let's go back to the transition. Talk a little bit about what was happening while you were at Long Beach State and the transition to first get onto the national team. How did that happen? When did that happen?
I was approached by Shelton Collier my senior year in college, and before that, my junior year, the summer between my sophomore and junior year, I played on a USA B team. They didn't really do high performance back then that I know of, but they got a group of college players, and they formed a USA B team, and we played a national team from Germany in San Diego. And then the summer between my junior and senior year, right before my senior year, we did an A-B team, which they took some college players and they took a few of the national team players, and we traveled to Japan. And that was my first time flying overseas, and that was definitely an experience that I will never forget, seeing those Japanese players running around really fast. So that kind of, I guess, transitioned me into playing for the USA team. And then my senior year, Shelton Collier approached me and asked and invited me to join the national team.
So when you're flying back from that competition, just kind of where you were in your career, did you feel inside your heart, hey, I think I can have a future on this team, I think I can make this team? Kind of where were you in kind of thinking about your future?
Oh, well, but I was 15, and my dream, my goal was to play in the Olympics when I was 15. So just having that opportunity to play with some of the national team players and playing against international teams, I felt pretty confident that I could go in and at least contribute to the team.
Yeah. Well, let's talk now, kind of in a general way first, this run of 4 consecutive Olympics and the longevity piece of that, and what it takes in such a demanding sport to be able, talk about that a little bit, what it took to be able to compete at that level for that long.
Well, first I think it was the grace of God, because that's a long time. And I didn't particularly follow a certain game plan the first few years on the national team. When we had a break, I literally took a break and then paid for it when I came back. But and I only planned on playing in 2 at the most. So after '96, I thought I was done. I went off and played in Brazil and didn't think about coming back to the national team, and I was drawn back to the national team and realized that I was getting older, and in order to hang with the young ones, that I could not take a break. I had to continually work out and keep my body in shape in order to hang. And I think it was just a blessing that I didn't really have any major injuries while I was playing on the national team. So, I mean, yeah, a few tweaks here and there, but I never had a major. I had a couple of knee surgeries, but they were, cleaning cartilage and stuff.
Sure.
So I just think it was a blessing, even though I worked hard to keep my body in shape, but I really think it was a blessing that I was able to go that long.
Well, it's a tremendous run. Obviously, from the time you started to be recruited, coaches saw all sorts of strength in your games. But what about you? What did you think were the strong parts of your game?
I think my hitting, I think I was not the most powerful hitter, but I was a smart hitter. As I got into the latter part of my career, I was on the shorter end of the spectrum. As they came into the gym, they kept getting bigger and bigger, and I'm like, geez. But I think I still was able to contribute a lot in the front row. I loved playing defense, So I think just being able to play all around helped me out a great deal.
Let's talk about some teammates, and you had a lot of them. And I know you had a lot of great teammates, but maybe pick a few that just really, when you as a teammate, influenced you, but also just were spectacular on the court.
Wow, there's a lot. I would say Kim Oden meant a lot to me. She was kind of a mother figure when I first joined the team and kind of took me under her wing. Also, I loved playing with Leanne Sato. She was a feisty little thing, and I just saw her a few months ago, and she's still feisty. Karen Kimner was awesome to play with, very intense, and when I first joined the team, she kind of scared me a little bit, but getting to know her after a while, she was just awesome to play with. Towards the end of my career, I really enjoyed playing with Logan Tom, Stacy Sikora. Stacy Sikora would make a great dig and pump her fist in the middle of a rally. The rally wasn't even over yet. She's already pumping her fist because she knew she had that great dig. Robin Amo, feisty little Hawaiian player that probably people didn't think that she should be on the court because of her size, but she was just a go-getter. T. Williams was my best friend when I played on the national team. We actually came onto the team together. We actually started playing volleyball together. So she's very special to me. We call each other sis. So she's very close to me. But I can go on and on.
Well, thank you for those, because those are, all of them, great players. How about a particularly special Olympic moment?
I'd still have to go with the first Olympics. The first Olympics in general, because one of the experience, but when we were going through the tunnel for the opening ceremonies, I heard all this screaming because the volleyball teams were kind of towards, not necessarily the back, but towards the back. And I heard all this screaming. And they had the dream team was lined up in the tunnel. And we just literally went ballistic because it was the dream team. And then once we got out into the field, everybody else was, going crazy, and we were kind of like, it's just the dream team. So what? Because we went crazy earlier. And when beating Brazil in the bronze medal match and standing on that podium and knowing that I had accomplished my dream and my goal was just, I'll never forget that.
You showed a lot of exuberance on the court. You were a passionate player. What is it about the essence of volleyball that brought joy to you?
Just the competition. I loved it was a competitive sport, but not a contact sport. You still got to be aggressive, but there was a net in between you. The teamwork that involves in accomplishing that goal, it wasn't, you just couldn't depend on yourself. You had to depend on your teammates in order to get where you wanted to be. Just that camaraderie with the other women was just amazing. And I love the beauty of the game. The game is beautiful if it's done correctly. At a high level, it's really wonderful to watch, and that's what I would tell people all the time. When they say volleyball and they really don't know it, I say if you just watch one game, one high-level game, you will fall in love with the game. So
I know this question could be asked a lot of ways when we think about, you were talking about across the net, the competition you played against in particular players. Think of it this way. Was there a time you walked off the court as you had been in your career for a while, especially internationally, and said, I think that's the best player I ever faced? Who was that?
Probably Mireia Luis. She was incredible to watch, and she was incredible to play against. When she decided to turn it on and decided to take over a match, she did exactly that, and there was no way you were going to stop her. You know, and it was just, even though it was frustrating to play against her, it was also fun. We always had really good matches against Cuba, and just watching her was incredible.
A couple more questions. You played for a lot of different coaches. Talk to us about making adjustments from coach to coach.
I would say that I'm very literal, and I'm a pleaser, so to speak. So I never really had any trouble with any of the coaches that I played for. In a way, they were all similar. I would say the most similar were Brian and Toshi. They taught the same way. So the things that I learned from Brian and his staff kind of carried me through my whole career. And when we got to Toshi, I was like, oh, I've been doing this the whole time. Terry Liskevich was a good coach. He built the women's program. And I didn't get to play for Mick very long, but I had no issues with him as well. So I'm pretty easy
You
to
sound like a
get along.
low-maintenance player.
I am
a coach's delight.
I am very low maintenance. Like I said, I'm a pleaser. So
You've stayed involved in the game, and you've continued to contribute to the game. Would you share a little bit about what you have been doing since your playing days?
I retired after Athens, 2004. And when I went back home to Houston, I was sitting there going, now what am I going to do? Because I literally, my whole life was in the gym. I am a gym rat. And I remember meeting a woman by the name of Patsy Hinojosa through Deetra Collins. And she had mentioned to me in '98 that whenever I was done playing, I always had a job at her club. So I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden I go, what is that lady's name? So I contacted Deetra. I got Patsy's number, left her a message, and she was shocked that I actually called her. And started out as a training coach. They wanted me to have my own team, but I wasn't quite ready for my own team. And so I decided to be a training coach and help on the court with other coaches. And halfway through that season, one of the coaches had to leave, and it was for a 14s team. And they asked me if I would take over for the rest of the season. And so I did and enjoyed it. And then I went on to 18s, did that for about 3 years, needed a change. And so I've been coaching 16s, so sophomores, for the last six years, I think. And I love that age group because they're just now starting to be recognized by college coaches, and they're still passionate about learning.
Sure.
So
I have one more question, but before we do that, you got a lot of fans. So you can look into the camera. What would you say to all those fans who've supported you over your entire career?
I would just say to my fans that I really, really appreciate all the love and the support. I still get all the love and support on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and all that. And you guys have just been so awesome to me, and I really appreciate everything that you've done for me and shown the love for me.
So last question. How do you feel about being inducted into the International Volleyball Hall of Fame?
I still feel like it's a dream. And I think it really, really, really won't hit me until tomorrow evening. But once I realized that there was a Hall of Fame, that became a dream of mine. And to get that letter, and I had to read it about 3 times and have my husband read it as well to make sure that I wasn't imagining things, but just, it's literally a dream come true, and it's the ultimate dream for me as far as a volleyball player. And so I am deeply honored and grateful that they chose me to join such great people.
Well, congratulations on that honor.
Thank you.
We've been speaking with International Volleyball Hall of Fame Class of 2014 honoree, Tara Cross-Battle. This is Volleyball in Perspective, and I'm your host, Joel Daring. Thank you for watching.